Are there any two words more polarizing in the NBA than project player? Apart from Ben Simmons, of course. But seriously, you'll quickly find out whether the people are glass half full or glass half empty, because you'll have some people who think they're getting the next Giannis, Pascal Siakam, or other people will think they're getting the next Bruno Caboclo, Dragan Bender, Sekou Doumbouya. Now, let me just get that out of the way, because you see the thumbnail and you're probably thinking, Sekou's not done yet, it's only been 2 years. I'm not saying that. I still believe in him, I still have some faith. I hope he turns it around. But all I'm saying is, in Detroit, it did not work. And to someone who followed his career in Detroit, I think there's a few reasons for that. So that's why I wanted to explore him as one of the examples, and then look at some other examples of players that did work out. You get the point. But with that being said, is there actually a formula for getting the best out of these players, or does it just come down to luck? Now, for starters, I think we want to define what a project player is. To me, I guess a project player is someone that has a couple of standout traits. Normally, it'll be size, athleticism, and one other thing. Say maybe it's a motor or just a rare combination of skill for someone his size. You look at Giannis, you even look at recently Alexei Pokashevsky. These guys that shouldn't have the kind of flashes of skill that they do at their size, but they haven't been able to piece it all together. So maybe they're weak in one area, whether that's literal weakness, like they haven't put on enough size, or they can't defend, or they just don't shoot at a high level consistently enough. So they've got a combination of skills that, if they manage to work and develop and grow those skills, those are skills that are all synonymous with NBA stardom. But if they don't, well, they turn out to be, I guess, the next Bruno Caboclo or someone of that nature. I don't know if that made you any more clearer on what a project player is. Maybe I should have just told you, I guess it's someone that you draft with high potential and high risk, and you try to develop and see if it works. I guess that could work as well, but that's kind of my definition. Actually, before I go any further, if you could drop a like in the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, that would be much appreciated. Trying to make some different kind of content, so a like would be greatly appreciated. Now, with development in the NBA and just sport in general, we got to make sure, like, there are a lot of factors that we can't even measure. We don't know what someone's mindset is. You're always going to hear the same responses. Oh, he's got great work ethic, he's got great this and this. It's everyone that's ever played in the NBA heading into the NBA has had great work ethic. So we don't know about their mentality. We don't know about a lot of circumstances, but there are some things that we can look at and judge as to where things went right and where things went wrong. And I want to start by looking at someone that went right, and that's Pascal Siakam. Yes, I could have gone to Giannis, and I was initially going to do Pascal and Giannis, but then I realized the video would take too long, so I just want to talk about Pascal, touch on him, and how Toronto and himself were just the perfect match that led to him progressing into a star, because whether he gets back to his stardom again, I don't know, but he was a star at some point, and you cannot deny that. Now, coming out of college, Pascal was only a few years removed from playing football in Cameroon. But that's not to say he didn't show off an impressive level of skill in college. Very impressive, actually, considering he had only been playing basketball for about 3 years. But the reason he was drafted was because of those standout traits. An incredibly high motor. Everyone said it was the highest motor in the draft. 6'9", 7'2" wingspan, and athletic. Also showed off some skill as well, and showed off some development. Despite being in one of the worst conferences in college basketball, you saw the willingness to work, and that willingness actually translated to development. That's a key thing when I look at players, because it's one thing to have a willingness to work. As I said, everyone apparently wants to work really hard. It's another thing for Pascal in the first year to improve significantly to the second year, and improve significantly in aspects of his game that he needed to, like a jump shot, adding a jump shot, and improving all across the floor. So that's one thing that you saw from Pascal in college, and I think that would foreshadow what he would do in the NBA. But before he got that opportunity, he had to go to the right team, and let's be honest, Pascal struck gold because he got drafted by the Toronto Raptors. So when he got drafted by them, the first 2 seasons, he got opportunity, consistent opportunity, 15 minutes a game and 20 minutes a game respectively, spending a little bit of time in the G League, but he quickly showed he was too good for that level, which I'm sure was encouraging for Toronto, and even more encouraging, look back to college, and then at the NBA, he showed off improvement. From year 1 to year 2, he improved his points, he improved his production, his minutes, and also even his playmaking, going from 0.3 assists a game to 2 assists per game, and he was someone that believed he had that guard kind of skill set, and he could do those kind of things. So you saw that in full fruition. But he still had one glaring weakness, and that was his 3 ball. So as he had shown in college, he got to work, but importantly, he was actually aware of that weakness. You feel like some people are working on the wrong things when it comes to NBA players. They need to work on certain aspects of their game, and they're more focused on other aspects of the game. Pascal knew what he needed to do. He got to work and improved that three-point shot. But I don't think it's quite as simple as just being a hard worker. You can also play into account the environment that was in Toronto, a winning organization, a great organization, and even more so, as quoted here, Masai is from Africa, it's an international locker room with great veterans and the only international city in the NBA. As far as adapting to his environment and feeling comfortable, you couldn't ask for anything more. So when you look at this is something that I reckon probably goes overlooked when it comes to international players, which are also normally associated with being project players. But coming from a different country, coming from a different setting, a different continent, then coming to the States, that's a different environment. So to have an international locker room, an international general manager, even in an international team, all of those things, although they might seem minor, could have been major parts in helping him out, just being more confident and just feeling more comfortable. And then all of these things in year 3 culminated when Nick Nurse took over. This is where opportunity met work ethic and all of these things, because Nick Nurse gave him the opportunity to put everything he'd been doing and practicing into full effect. But it was more than just giving him the opportunity to play more minutes, play more games. Nick Nurse actually gave him the opportunity to play a bigger role and show off some of that guard skill set that he said he had and he was confident in. So he was being able to handle the ball more, he was being able to create more. And I think that's important as well. When it comes to opportunity, it's one thing to, get an increase in minutes, but what does that really mean for a player if they're not actually getting an increase in role? You're not drafting Pascal Siakam to just be a spot-up shooter or just be a 3-and-D guy. You're drafting Pascal with the hopes of showing off some of that playmaking and some of those different instincts and different skills that he had in college, and hoping to see him develop him. And then the culmination happened when Nick Nurse was assigned. So that's something that we don't know what would have happened if Dwayne Casey remained the coach. Would he have stayed a bench player? Would he have got traded? Who really knows? So Nick Nurse coming in was great for his development, and the timing was perfect, which helped out Pascal Siakam. And then from there on, the rest is history. Now, on the flip side to Pascal having pretty much everything go right, going to the right situation, and them having confidence, and then a coach coming in right at the right time and giving him more opportunity, Sekou Doumbouya. Again, not saying it's over for Sekou, there's still a chance he can turn it around. He's only 20 years of age. But you look at what happened in Detroit. It started perfectly for Sekou. Like, genuinely, it started perfectly. He was on fire in the G League. This handsome young man that you should probably follow said this: Sekou Doumbouya averaged 17.5 points a game on nearly 50% from the field, 35.6% from 3 on nearly 6 attempts a game, and 84.5% from the free throw line in 16 games in the G League, as the youngest player from the draft class. That's great numbers. Just for comparison, Jalen Green, who went second the next year, look at his numbers. Practically identical. And at the time Jalen was playing in the G League, despite not having been drafted yet, he was at a similar age. Then you look at Kuminga, who was a little bit older than Sekou was when he was playing, put up worse numbers and then went top 7. So you see the kind of numbers Sekou put up. He wasn't just fluffing around in the G League. He showed off everything. And then you fast forward to Detroit, and he was just gaining momentum. He looked fantastic. He was started on fire. He had confidence. He was shooting the ball. He was attacking the rim. It looked like the Detroit Pistons had found the steal of the draft. People were already claiming him to be the steal of the draft. They were saying, he should have been drafted higher. Everything was going perfectly. Yes, he fell off towards the end of the season, sure. But if you're looking for a year 1 out of a project player, out of the youngest player in the draft class, it's about as good as you could have hoped for from Sekou. He came into the G League and he proved he was too good for that. Then he came into the NBA, and although he was inconsistent, at times he proved that what he could do was great. And then the inconsistencies were natural. So the first year for Sekou was pretty much all you could have hoped for. So where did it all go wrong? Well, as opposed to in Toronto with Siakam and Nick Nurse coming in and seeing the vision and seeing Siakam in his plans, it was quite the opposite for Sekou. Because when Troy Weaver came in, well, things changed immediately. Luke Kennard was traded, which freed up a space for Saddiq Bey to be drafted, and then Jeremy Grant was signed straight away. Saddiq Bey, 2 years older than Sekou at the time of being drafted, and was more ready to play. That's what he was coming in to do. He was coming in to be ready to play and ready to provide an impact. Jeremy Grant was obviously going to be a starter, getting paid big money, and was ready to start and be a star level player. Those things immediately reduce Sekou's opportunity in minutes. Then you bring in Josh Jackson, and also you have to consider Troy Weaver. There was no reason for him to be invested in Sekou. This was not his draft pick. He was invested in his draft picks and his future, which was a different kind of player, and Sekou did not fit that model. So although Sekou in the second year still got some opportunity, things changed. Not to mention, Bruce Brown was traded, his best friend. Think back to Pascal Siakam, great environment, international environment. Bruce Brown gets traded. Blake Griffin, his mentor, gone. All of these things happen. Troy Weaver comes in, different vision. Sadiq Bey's in there, Josh Jackson's in there, Jeremy Grant. And all of a sudden, Sekou is still getting similar kinds of minutes, but the opportunity isn't quite there. Whereas Pascal Siakam was getting more opportunity to ball handle and play make and create and do things that he could do, Sekou wasn't getting those opportunities. He was asked to be a 3-and-D wing. And although in the G League, he shot well, for whatever reasons, he just could not get back to that. You also have to consider the mental parts of the game. I talked about Blake and Bruce, but remember the virus. This is someone who's international, his family is overseas, and you had Dwayne Casey coming out and saying he needs to get more girls. There's just a lot of things that were a little bit strange about the Sekou situation, particularly in year 2, that all of a sudden went from him looking so promising and to looking like he was just going to be on a trajectory to the top to him stagnating, him dropping, and then the rest is history with Cade Cunningham getting drafted, Isaiah Livers. You could point to so many things when it comes to Sekou and how it didn't work out in Detroit, but it's really just the complete opposite to what happened with Pascal Siakam. Both pretty promising first years, Sekou actually more promising and at a younger age, and particularly promising in the G League. But then year 2, while Siakam got more opportunity and more minutes, and then particularly in year 3, a new coach saw the vision with him and wanted to give him that opportunity. Year 2 was completely different for Sekou. A new general manager came in, new players came in, and all of a sudden he was down the pecking order. There was a number of things that happened in terms of losing someone like Bruce Brown, Blake Griffin, and it just never really worked out in year 2, which led to him then being traded to the Brooklyn Nets. When it comes down to things that I reckon teams can control, or at least that help, continuity and opportunity for sure. You need to get minutes and you need to get opportunity to do things that are at your strengths, like Siakam got a chance to ball handle and do more things than just spot up and be asked to defend. It then comes down to coaching and the right environment. Pascal Siakam was in an environment that was fantastic for him. Sekou, well, that environment changed. Whether that was a terrible environment in year 2, I don't know, but it wasn't the same environment, which doesn't help. And there was a general manager that did not see him in his plans, whereas for Pascal Siakam, there was a coach that definitely saw him in his plans. These are just 2 players, just 2 examples. But in 2 examples, you see what went right for Siakam, what went wrong for Sekou, and how that contrast changed their fortunes. Because there's no doubt, in year 1, Sekou doing those things showed enough to suggest he was one of the more talented players in the draft class, and he can belong at the NBA level given the chance, but all of a sudden, for a number of reasons, doesn't do the same thing in year 2, and now he's traded to the Brooklyn Nets, and from now on out, I don't know what the rest of the future is going to hold for Sekou Doumbouya. So I think there are some factors that are definitely controllable and you can definitely point to as to why things went right and as to why things went wrong. And there are obviously some factors that you can't control.